The smell of burning feathers wafted into his dreams, and Nate awoke. "Carrot, you dope!" Nate grabbed a pillow and smashed it hard against the sleeping bird. Carrot awoke violently, shaking his feathers. "Rah! On fire! Rah!" The 2.5-foot-tall parrot extended his wings and dove upward, off his perch, toward a skylight in the ceiling and out into the salty air of morning. Splash! Idiot! Nate took a swig from a flask on the table, pushed himself begrudgingly out of bed, and stumbled around the room. It was the captain's quarters of his decommissioned ship, the LMA. He blew out the candle that ignited Carrot, pulled on a pair of deck pants, grabbed the flask in his eye patch, and headed topside. The LMA, once the fiercest pirate vessel in the region, was now, literally, landlocked. During Hurricane Clayton, 11 years prior, she had smashed into the dead-end cliffs, a crag of rocks on the northwest side of Deserted Island. It was where it was still lodged to this day, and since Nate and Carrot had nowhere else to go and no other ship, they stayed. The LMA was positioned on the rocks in a way that even the largest waves couldn't dislodge it, and structurally the captain's quarters, lavatory, and the map room were still intact. It would take fire dismantling piece by piece to move the LMA, and Nate had no interest in that. So he stayed, decommissioned the ship, and retired. In the early days, he climbed the face of the cliffs and installed a ladder to the mainland. Nate and Carrot fished and gardened with local seeds from the island and told wild tales about their adventures at sea. The rocks faced northwest, and they enjoyed the most fantastic sunsets with "Rock! Round my bottle!" Carrot had returned holding a glass bottle in his beak. It had been underwater for quite a while and was covered in a small ecosystem. He toyed with it with his massive talons and pried at the barnacle-encrusted cork with his beak. "It's not yours. Throw that thing back, Carrot." "Rock! It's my bottle. Rock!" Sure, whatever. Just don't cut your rock." Carrot dug with his beak through the layers of time and grime, and when he finally reached the cork and pulled, something clicked. Nate understood what Carrot meant when he said, "My bottle." "That is your bottle?" Nate said slowly. "From the wreck at Monstro?" "Rock! It'll never survive," you said. "Rock! Carrot's a dope," you said. "Rock! And after all this time, it washes up on our cliffs. The blessings at Monstro were blessings indeed." Nate took a swig from his flask and danced around. Hey, dear friend, you know my insult to merely terms of endearment. Now give me that bottle." Nate lunged at Carrot, who was slow to react, but got a wing in Nate's face before he could get close enough. Carrot dodged and flew up to a broken part of the ship above where Nate could safely climb. The parrot pulled a rolled paper slowly from the bottle and spread it out on a rock. "What is it? What is it? Carrot's a dope with a treasure map. Carrot's a dope with a treasure map. If that's what you say it is and it blows away, I swear to you, I will have poultry on the spit for dinner tonight. Carrot's got a treasure map. Great. Now you need a boat." Nate climbed the ladder to the mainland of Deserted Island and built a communication fire on the edge of the cliffs. Once the fire was roaring, he added water at different intervals to create the smoke he needed to make smoke signals. The region of the ocean they were in wasn't completely empty, but communication was limited to smoke, bird, or boat, and since Carrot could no longer fly the distance to deliver a message, Nate stoked the fire and sent out a question. "Morley will get it if he's still alive." "Don't mention the map." "I'm not signaling anything like that. Just that we need a boat and can pay the fees at the end." "Paid out of your cut." "You crazy parrot, enough. Look, there." Nate pointed to the distance where similar smoke began to climb above the horizon. 2 days, Morley says. And he can crew. Nice. Confirmation sent, said Nate as he created more smoke. 2 days is perfect. Come on, Carrot, let's go gather supplies. Blessed by Monstro. Nate stopped. Blessed at Monstro, he said slowly. Listen, Carrot, last time we were lucky. This time is a recovery mission. I'm not what I used to be, and neither are you. Couple of old mermaid farts. Exactly. Nate ruffled Carrot's feathers, and the bird leapt up and flew back into the ship. Nate dumped the rest of the water over the fire to signal to Morley the conversation was done. Then he headed back down the ladder to the map room where Carrot had laid out the map. I can't believe this map found us, Nate was saying, as he and Carrot examined it for 50-year-old clues and tried to piece together their blocked memories of the final moments on that night at Monstro. Rock! Monstro was cursed, but the blessing was true. Rock! Cast your dreams into the sea, and if in fact they're meant to be, the island of Monstro will set you free. Cast your dreams into the sea. Rock! Yeah, and then we jumped from the crow's nest into the eye wall of a Class 5 hurricane. But we survived it. We survived it. And now the map has returned. Carrot's got a treasure map. Yes, friend. And perhaps the final great adventure for Captain Dagger and First Mate Carrot. I'll head topside to forecast the weather and start gathering. Morley is a great sailor. He'll likely be here in 36 hours, not 48. Carrot's got a treasure map. Carrot's got a treasure map. Nate headed back up to the mainland to start gathering food and supplies they would need for the trip back to Monstro. Carrot stayed in the map room, now realizing that since this map was what they thought it was, he decided to protect it with his life. And off in the distance, about 30 hours away, and helped by a strong wind at his back, Mach Morley sailed his 200-ton brigantine towards Deserted Island. At first glance, there wasn't much to the man called Morley. He was short and stout, with a beard eternally on the verge of growing in, a toothy smile, and a self-modified pair of glasses. He wore gray deck pants and a worn, faded pink and black with colorful spots, shirts, and bucket hats of his own design. When it came down to brass tacks, Morley was a brilliant but zany inventor-ish type person with the soul of a pirate. At his side was his canine Zogo, a fluffy yellow mixed breed that Nate was sure Carrot would recognize any second. Roar, devil dog! Roar! Carrot flew up higher away from the viewing platform they were standing on. Don't worry, you wimp. Zogo's fine. You met before. Roar! Carrot remembered his lost feathers very well. Morley was waving and Zogo was barking as the ship docked and Morley threw in the lines for Nate to tie off. 2 deckhands climbed down to assist. Good tides, Captain Dagger, called Morley. Zogo jumped to the platform and ran directly at Carrot, barking salutations. Carrot screamed back, bark, 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 bark. Not today, Satan, bark, 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 bark. Enough, yelled Nate. The animals obeyed, barely. Good tides, Morley. Glad to see you alive. I heard you went back to the river, said Nate, gripping Morley's hand and clapping him on the shoulder. Nate took a swig from his flask and handed it to Morley, who did the same. Did you think I was dead? Ha! I didn't canoe the West Fork of the Hammerhead River once, only to die while doing it the second time. To conquer Diablo's Run twice in a canoe? Truly legendary. That's insane, Morley. The West Fork of the Hammerhead River, Diablo's Run, was a mythical stretch of unpassable rapids at the mouth of the Longo River. There was an 89% mortality rate for those who attempted it. Morley was the only person good enough or crazy enough to complete it twice in a canoe. Captain Mach, as he was once known, also held the distinction of taking 10 direct cannonball hits in battle and steering his ship and crew to safety by eventually running aground on the island where he and some of them still called home. According to legend, he plugged the holes with whatever he could, including dead crew members. That was, as he liked to say, his last commissioned battle. Nate didn't doubt Morley's stories, but he often wondered how one person could fall ass backwards into so many lucky situations. In fact, now that he thought about it, this ship looked familiar. I see you looking at her. She looks good, right? Morley noticed Nate was looking at the ship. Is this the Angry Dolphin? Amazing, right? You fixed her? Yeah, sort of. Morley, you took 10 direct hits. 10 direct hits, man, and ran aground. How is this ship even afloat? Oh, yeah, sure. I fixed the bottom. It's modified. I could have replaced all the busted boards and rebuilt it all shipshape, but I found a much easier thing to do is just balance the weight on the ship so that the holes stay out of the water. Although it's best, not to sail in rough seas, but it works great to get through the passage here. I made great time. There's less boards. What? Balance the weight? Wait a minute, who can predict rough seas? Morley, that's insane. Last time there was a hurricane at Monstro. Rock! Holy ship! He brought a holy ship! Rock! There's gotta be another option, said Nate. Yeah, sure. Sure, I mean, the Angry Fin is good to go, but I got plenty of options. Come, follow me. Morley led the way below deck, and Nate followed. Behind him flew Carrot, chased closely by Zogo. Below deck in the Angry Dolphin was like nothing Nate had ever seen. Morley had removed decks in the middle to create a multi-level open courtyard decorated with plants and trees and a small beach and spa area. The Angry Dolphin in its prime had held 100 men and 10 cannons, 2 of which were modified by Morley himself to shoot farther as they cut a swath of destruction through their north passage. Now it held 7 men, himself and Zogo. Over the years, though, Morley, instead of upgrading weapons and defense, upgraded his accessories and spent most of his plunder on his inventions. The Battle of Mermaid Mound, when the Angry Dolphin took 10 direct hits, was the end of Morley's pirate days, and should have been the end of the Angry Dolphin, too. I can't believe you fixed her. Sort of. Oh, gee. She's a classic, man. I had to. How do you like the beach? Morley pointed and Nate nodded. Yeah, that's amazing that there's a fucking beach in here, dude. Is the whole thing modified? Even below this? Morley winked. Let me show you something. Morley led them through the passages and stopped at a door with a skull carved into it. I saved the good stuff. He swung the door open to what must have been 1,000+ bottle liquor closet. Oh, all plundered? Most. Some were gifts from the girls at Helen's. Ha ha! The girls at Helen's. Free bottle for every 100 visits. The two sang in a sing-song commercial voice simultaneously. Ha ha ha! The girls at Helen's, you slut. Tell me, you at least have an empty Riggings 1302. But Mach had already walked away and returned with a full, corked bottle of Riggings 1302. Damn, Morley. Is that the last one that exists? Holy hell, Mach! I have 3. Come on, I'll show you the other boats. 3? Morley popped the cork on the ancient liquid bottled by the legendary Captain Riggings of the 89th Fleet himself. During an intense prohibition moment, Riggings' factory was raided, burned, and 99% of the bottles destroyed. The fact that Morley had 3 was mind-numbing. He handed half-full glass to Nate and raised his in a toast. May there be wind at your sails, stars in your eyes, and warmth in your heart. Here, here, replied Nate as the two of them drank their shots in one gulp and proceeded to turn red with bulging eyes and cheeks. Whoa, smooth. Woo! Oh, the age is everything on this one. Rarity is second, said Morley, leading Nate down another hall and down a few more decks. All right, this one is one I modified myself. No guarantees like everything, but it's got a solid body, no holes, and, Morley swung open a door which opened to a cavernous room that held a small but interesting-looking boat. Captain Dagger, I'd like you to meet the Winded. The Winded? Said Nate. Rock! It's got sails! Rock! It was true. The Winded had a single mast with sails at the ready. There's a small cabin for a crew of 8. She's got 2 man-o'-oars and 4 sail bikes. Wait, what? And what now? A man-o'-oar. You haven't seen them? You sit on the bench and you pump your legs and the oars work beneath you? No, huh. So your hands are free to work the cannons. Exactly, said Morley. Huh, smart. And the other one? A sail bike. Man, I thought my inventions reached this side of the passage. I'll have to get on my smoke signaler for that. Anyway, yeah, here, I'll show you. Morley offered the Riggings 1302 bottle again, and Nate gladly accepted a refill. The drink was so rare, it was said after the raid, Riggings himself had employed raiders to pillage local saloons to steal his coveted bottles back. It was also rumored that 2 bottles of Riggings could raise the dead. Nate took a slow sip, savoring it as if it were his last, which it very well might be. Look, Morley had climbed up onto the Winded. There's a lever. He pulled the lever, and a mechanical grinding sound could be heard. From the deck of the Winded, a large, round, 8-blade fan, encased in a protective screen, rose up vertical until it was in the place where it would blow the sails when spinning. Morley, what in monstro is that? It's a sail bike. You've never seen this? Come on up. Nate climbed up onto the deck to look. There were 4 bicycle-style frames bolted to the deck with pedals, a seat, and handlebars. So you pump those pedals there, and the chain moves the gear that turns the spindle that runs the fan. It's a hell of a workout, but when everything is engaged and running properly, she hums across the water and has the fortitude to make it to Monstro. And he pointed around to the red ridge around the rail of the ship. Nate wasn't sure what that was for. She's watertight in a storm. I added a few things to ensure that. The winded sounds like a lot of work. Oh, right. I almost forgot about Carrot. The winded has a bird harness, too. Morley pulled another lever, and from the crow's nest dropped ropes in a harness. Carrot flew up and found that it would fit over his head like a flying helmet with thin ropes attached to the ship, leaving his wings free to fly. Nope, not pulling the ship. I've got the treasure map, not pulling the ship. Friend. You've been landlocked for too long. Fear not. There are plenty of seabirds who will come and help pull the winded. As long as we... Morley stopped and held up his hand as if he'd heard something. What is it? Nothing good. Come on. Morley jumped down off the winded and led quickly towards a door in the distance. Through it was a weapons room. Here, take these. They're modified, so be careful. Split shot is questionable in close quarters. Wait, split shot? You'll get it. Just take that and go. Here, Carrot. Morley handed Carrot a metal vial. Disintegration powder. Use it sparingly. Carrot's gonna get ya. Zogo, who hadn't been barking and who had been surprisingly calm through all of it, now stepped up and Morley hugged him and ruffled his fur. Ready to go, Zo? I know. Let me know what you see. Morley stood up and as he did, pressed Zogo's collar, which made a cracking sound. A thin liquid began to flow from the capsule, covering Zogo's body in a thin, clear film. Medusa scale. If you ever see it growing on a deserted island, let me know. It works as a parasitic liquid hardener for Zogo's fur for about 10 minutes. He basically turns it to stone, but can still move. Fantastic stuff. No good for people, though. That's for sure. Morley rolled his arm over, exposing a deep gray burn pattern in his skin. He opened the door a crack, and Zogo slipped out. Shadows filled the space outside the door, and Morley closed it quickly. Probably raiders, but it almost sounded like bark. Cannons? Down! Boom! The room they had been in was no longer a room. There were debris and destruction and chaos all around them, and noise. The buzzing in Nate's head shocked him out of his stupor enough to stand up. He was still holding the split shot and lifted it as a figure lunged towards him. Bang! Bang! The raider fell, and Nate turned to find Morley in the rubble. That's more than just raiders, said Morley, as he uncovered himself from the rubble. Come on. Morley took stock of himself and his weapons, and Nate followed. Carrot flew above, and they ran out to the open deck toward the wind. And boom! The second blast was behind them, and Nate fired off a couple shots at raiders in the distance. They had a clear line to the winded as Morley took out 2 more raiders, one with a modified crossbow and the other with a forearm blowgun he pulled from his pants. Get to the winded and pull the red lever. Get below ASAP, and I'll meet you there. We can get out through the bottom of the angry dolphin. Shots were beginning to volley at them, and Splinter and Ricochet sent running for cover. Morley went portside, and Nate went starboard toward the winded. As Nate climbed aboard through a shattered wall of the angry dolphin, Nate could see a massive, dark pirate ship, bigger than any had ever seen, passing by. It appeared to be shrouded in fog, but there was crew on the deck, and they were active, and its cannons were the ones picking the dolphin apart. Who in Monstro? I disintegrated 2 raiders. Turned them to dust. Carrot had returned. Nice work, mate. Listen, I don't know who's out there, but it's big. Morley thinks we can get out through the bottom or something. I don't know. Red lever. Here we go. Nate lifted the red lever, and the red ridge that ran around the rail of the ship cracked open, and a million tiny bugs crawled out and began weaving a web. Suddenly, Morley appeared, yelling, "They're water weavers! Get below now!" He grabbed Nate's arm and forced him forward into the cabin of the Winded. 3 more from Morley's crew appeared suddenly and also leapt into the cabin of the Winded before the weavers had sealed off the entrance. "We made it! Zogo!" Zogo had appeared and was running toward the Winded with the bottle in his mouth. 2 raiders appeared behind him, firing pistols, and Nate leveled a split shot at them and flipped to safety. "He's got the riggings 1302! Good boy, Zogo! Don't you dare hit that bottle, Captain Dagger! Go, Zogo!" Morley covered as Zogo dove into the cabin, and Nate fired the split shot and took out both rangers with one pull. Bang, bang! The water weavers sealed them in their cocoon and continued to cover the entirety of the winded. Morley moved quickly into the ship. Come on, get on the man of war. It's the only way to propel us underwater. Wait, what? What? Underwater? Cried Nate, climbing on the bench and locking his feet into the straps. Of course, said Morley. How else did you think we were going to go? And with that, Morley punched the button, and all of the boat that was once the angry dolphin below them broke apart and began to float away off into the water. The rest of the angry dolphin began to immediately sink. The winded pitched sharply downward and slid like a knife blade into the deep water below. The web around the ship was in fact watertight, and the oars attached to the man-o-war pedals were working as they should. The water weavers weaved their cocoon around the egg line. The red line you saw there earlier, eggs. Millions of eggs. And when they hatch, they instinctively cover the entire area around the egg line with waterproof webbing. Granted, doesn't last long, only like 30 minutes, and you need a lot of water weavers to cover a ship, but I'd say for the first time trying it on the fly, this was pretty successful. Now paddle! Wait, this was your first time trying this? Yeah, in a real world, like, escape situation. But it worked, didn't it? Morley shook his head and looked at Zogo. Can't believe your dog saved the riggings. Ha ha! Takes after his old man. Zogo's gonna expect a healthy sip from that 1302. Ha ha! Now let's go! Paddle! Morley pedaled and Nate pedaled alongside him as their temporary submarine slid through the water away from the mysterious pirate raiders in the dark ship. And about 20 minutes later, they were picked up by a powerful underwater stream that, with the amount of time left before the web began to loosen, would take them well on their way to Monstro. Thanks for listening to Part 1 of Deserted Island. Part 2 coming soon.